gender. Now let's say we have an unknown and male and then female. Now if you look at this, this is our enum. Now if you don't specify anything, if you create an enum like this, then it's using the defaults, meaning the underlying data type of this enum is actually integer. Okay, and the values for these enum members actually start at 0. Okay, now let's say for example I want to get the values of this enum. How do I do that? Actually within the .NET Framework base class library, we have a class called enum class. So if you look at this, this is actually a class. When I right click on that and say go to definition, I have two methods. One is get names and the other one is get values. Now for the get names method, if you pass an enum type, it will return you the names. Okay. Similarly for get values, if you pass the enum type, it returns you the values that the enum contains. Now an enum's default underlying data type is integer, and the value actually starts at 0. So unknown is 0, male is 1, female is 2. Okay, now let's say I want to retrieve those values and print them, and to do that we can use the enum class, and on that enum class we have a method called get values. Okay, if you look at this, we have a get values method, and if you look at what it is expecting, it's actually expecting a type to be passed in. Okay, now type can be your class, your enum, structure, anything, but here we want to get the values of our enum, so we pass the gender type. Now gender is actually the name of your enum. To get the type of this gender enum, then what you have to do is you have to use the type of. So type of, and if you look at this type of method, what it does is it actually returns the type of this gender, which in our case is an enum, gender enum. Okay, and if you look at the return type of this get values method, it's an array. What array specifically? It's an integer array. Because why? The default underlying type for this gender is an integer. So integer, let's say values, is equal to, and what you need to do is you need to convert this to integer as well, integer array as well. And all you can do at this point of time is loop through the values and print them. So for each int value in values, you can actually say console.writeLine value. So if I run this program now, you should see the value starting at 0, 1, 2. Okay. Similarly, if I want these symbolic names for those 0, 1, and 2, what I can basically do is instead of using get values, I can use get names function. So let's see that how to do it. So instead of get values, I will say get names, and you know that get names is actually returning a string array. So as it is returning, it's actually get names. So get names returns a string array. It's not an integer array, so we need to remove that. And here we will call it a string array, and we will give the name of the array as names. And what you basically can do here is loop through that string collection. So for each string name in names, we will print the names of each element of the enum. So now if we run this, it should print enum values and the enum names. Okay, now we know that the default underlying type for this enum is an integer. Now is it possible to change that? Absolutely. You know, you can use any of the integral data types you have. For example, I want this to be short. Of course you can do that. Now the default underlying type of this enum is short. The moment we do that, and let's go ahead and run this, look at this, unable to cast the object of type gender to type system.int32 because we know that here the underlying type of the enum is short, not int anymore. So what you will have to do here is typecast that to short. Otherwise, you will get, a compiler error. Similarly, this has to be a short array, and this is a short as well. And that's it. Now, if we run this program, the output will be exactly the same, but we are using a smaller data type name now, short instead of an integer. Okay, because we know that genders will not have more than like 4 5 values, unknown, male, female, or not specified, whatever the list you want. It won't exceed beyond 10. So it's better to have the smallest data type that's possible just to preserve some space in the memory when your program executes. So now what I want to tell here is that it's possible to actually change the underlying type of an enum. You just put a colon and then the underlying type to which you want to switch to instead of using the default integral data type. And similarly, it's also possible to customize the value that an enum contains. For example, we know that the default value starts at 0, but can I change it to 1? Of course. Now, the moment you put 1 there, what actually happens is you don't have to specify the values for the other types, for the other members. So what's going to happen now, the runtime will automatically provide 2 to this male and 3 to female. So let me run this. So 1, 2, 3. Unknown 1, male 2, and female 3. Similarly, if you want, you can actually say, okay, I don't want this to be 2 anymore. I want that to be 5 and this one to be 23. Is that possible? Absolutely. So 1, 5, 23.